Good morning everyone. Today we will study the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after. In the previous session we studied that Mughal Empire during the at the end of the 17th century, all the local chieftains and zamindars became powerful and they began to rule independently. So this also weakens the Mughal Empire. The administrative and military efficiency of the Mughal Empire led to great economic and commercial prosperity. We know that how the able rulers or the Mughal emperors and their administrative policy and military efficiency also began the empire to become economically and commercially prosperous. International travelers who came to India during that period also described it as the table. It was the fabled land of wealth. That means in this it was in the stories also. Okay, we can find that it was a very prosperous, wealthier region and land of wealth. It was in the during the Mughal period. But these same visitors also appalled at the state of poverty that existed side by side with the great opulence. We know that some regions we can find very luxurious and prosperous, very rich regions or wealthy areas. At the same time, poverty also existed in the Mughal Empire. So these inequalities were glaring, very shining, and much differences of inequalities existed also during the Mughal rule. Documents from the 20th year of the Shah Jahan's rule or reign inform us that the highest ranking Mansabdars were only 445 in number out of the total 8,000. So the number of Mansabdars, highest ranking Mansabdars were down. This small number, a mere 5.6% of the total number of Mansabdars received 61.5% of the total estimated revenue of the empire as salaries for themselves and their troopers. Which means here these all people, about 5.6% of the total Mansabdars were they had received the 61.5% of the total estimated revenue. That means a large number of revenue was collected for paying salaries to the Mansabdars and their troopers or their army or their officers also. And now the Mughal emperors and their Mansabdars spent a great deal of their income on salaries and goods. They were purchasing luxurious goods. Also they were paying salaries to the Mansabdars and the other officers. So this expenditure benefited the artisans and peasantry who supplied them with goods and produce. The peasantry and artisans also, they were supplying goods to these officers and the troopers also. Because of that, they were also, when these officers were buying goods from the artisans and peasants, they also began to be prosperous. But the scale of revenue collection left very little for investment in the lands of the primary producers, the peasant and the artisan. So the poorest among them lived from hand to mouth and they could hardly consider investing in additional resources, tools and supplies to increase productivity. Farmers and or the peasants and even the artisans also, they had no much additional income, only they had no savings also, so that they were unable to buy the tools and other machines for their agricultural or other productivity. The wealthier peasantry and the artisanal groups, the merchants and bankers profited in this economic world. That means the smaller or the poor farmers or the artisans were becoming very poor, but the wealthiest group or the rich and prosperous, the farmers and the artisans were also becoming, they also bankers, merchants, they also were profited in such kind of economy or during the Mughal period. Enormous wealth and resources commanded the Mughal elite made them an extremely powerful group in the people of the 17th century. So that means who were already this type of revenue and wealth who were amassed by the nobles or zamindars and the Mansabdars and other officers. They became more and more wealthy and prosperous. Also they had exercised a great deal of power in the society also. As the authority of the Mughal emperor slowly declined, his servants emerged as powerful centers of power in the regions. As we know that the Mughal rule is becoming weaker, the provincial governors or the nobles or the zemindars became powerful. They began to rule independently in their areas. So they constituted new dynasties and held command of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. These were the two important places you can find during the Mughal period, and they exercised themselves a powerful region and they controlled their areas. Awadh and Hyderabad become powerful kingdoms within the Mughal Empire, but they emerged as independent rulers. So here, although they continued to recognize the Mughal Emperor in Delhi as their master, by the 18th century, the provinces of empire had consolidated their independent political identities. Earlier, these kingdoms like Awadh and the Hyderabad, they considered their superior, or the Mughal rulers were considered as their superiors. But by the 18th century, they declared independence, then began to rule independently. At the same time, we can find during this Mughal period also that some contemporary rulers were there in other parts of the world also. In the same period, contemporary, it means which were the same period who ruled over other regions of the world. Many great monarchs also were there near, all were near contemporaries in the different parts of the world in the 16th century, who were ruling in the our country and other countries. Some powerful rulers were there. These included the ruler of Ottoman Turkey, Sultan Suleiman, 1522-1566. That was the period of Sultan Suleiman. During his rule, Ottoman state expanded into Europe. We know that Turkey, which is located in the Asian region, it's a kingdom, or Turkish empire was expanded in the European region. Sultan Suleiman, who captured or seized the regions of Hungary and besieging Austria also with the Turkish Empire or the Ottoman Empire. His armies also seized Baghdad and Iraq in the Western Asian countries and much of the North Africa. Also the way into Morocco. These were also seized, included in the part of Turkish Empire. Ottoman authority, Suleiman also reconstructed the Ottoman Navy. Also he modified the Navy, and its domination over the Eastern Mediterranean brought the Navy into competition with Spain also. In the Eastern Mediterranean region, when his Navy was there, there was also competition with Spain in Europe. In the Arabian Sea also it challenged the Portuguese, and this Navy was powerful, which remained in the Arabian Sea. Portuguese also were challenged by his Navy. The monarch was given the title of Al-Khanani, that means Al-Khanuni, that means the lawgiver. In Hindi we say Kanun, or the this was also the title given to Suleiman, Al-Khanuni, the lawgiver, because of the large number of regulations or Kanun or regulations passed during his time. Many of the law he passed or introduced during his new laws were passed during his reign. So these were also aimed to standardize administrative procedure throughout the expanded domains of the empire, and specifically to protect the peasantry from forced labor and extraordinary taxes. So what were the policies taken by or laws introduced by Suleiman aimed to protect the peasantry and also unnecessary or extraordinary taxes to be avoided. For that he regulated the administration. And later in the 17th century, when public order declined in the Ottoman domains, the reign of Suleiman or Kanuni was remembered as a period of ideal governance. So in the 17th century also, when public order was declined during this kingdom or during his in the Ottoman Empire, people began to remember the age of Ottoman Turkey, or the period of Suleiman was considered as the best period of ideal governance. We can also find out some other rulers of world during this period, where the Queen of England, who was known as the Queen Elizabeth I, and the Safavid ruler of Iran, Shah Abbas, and more controversial Russian ruler Tsar Ivan IV Vasilyevich. These were also, he was also known as the Ivan the Terrible, because his rule was much fearful and controversial. So these were all the other rulers contemporaries during the 16th century. That's all for today. The chapter is ended here. Thank you.